Hello quilting friends, I'm Linda Nitson with Sizzix, here today to show you the Hunter's Star block, which really you need 4 blocks to make the star. So if you look at the quilt that we have laid out here, I'm going to dissect it here real quick like. If you put 4 pieces together, 4 ultimate blocks together, it forms the star pattern automatically as a secondary print. And then you get the multiple colorways back and forth. Now this particular quilt you can make either as, it's a great stash buster if you have a lot of stash. Just use your 2 colors, lights and darks, is very important that you keep that straight. You can do it in different sizes too. So if you're a 2.5 inch grid, then we have the 2.5 half square triangles with a 4.5 inch square. But if you like a 3.5 inch grid, you can do that, or a 4.5 inch grid. Really, it's whatever you have as far as the die sets that you're familiar with, but keep that. It's just the 2 that make up this beautiful quilt. I have a couple of blocks already made up to show you. So here's one block unit that we're going to put together. So it's comprised of the 4.5 inch square, so we have the light, and then the blue will be the dark in this case. And then we have half square triangle units that will make the secondary block here that forms the bigger unit. And when we put 4 of those together, you can already start to see the star pattern that's going to form in the center here. So let's get to making this last one. We need squares. So we need one of the large square and one of the large square of the dark too. So let's cut those 2 together. So let's take, this is the Downton Abbey fabric from Andover. And if you're familiar with watching the show, this is from the Mary collection. And Mary is a bit of a hunter herself. So I thought this block to be very appropriate for her. Okay, we just need 2, one of each color. So we'll lay the 2 pieces face to face. We're going to put a cutting pad on top. And then we're going to roll the excess fabric on the back side of the die and get it out of the way. That way we don't have to pre-cut something to get our 4.5 inch squares. And when you fold over on the back side of the die, you want to make sure that your creases are on the exterior side of the die, but not on top of the backing here. And if you have a Sizzix Fabby machine, a Sizzix Big Shot, Big Kick, if you have a Pro machine, any number of those will work. Take your pick. All right, we want our squares. So in this case, we'll put a square here and a square here. Put this aside. Now we need the 2.5 inch half square triangles, and we need quite a few of those. So we need 4 for every square unit here. So 1, 2, 3, 4 of the light and 4 of the dark times 2 because I need 2 squares. So I need 8 of the light and 8 of the dark. Now we can cut those together using the fabric we already have laid out. I'm going to cut out 4 at a time. And when I'm cutting out half square triangles that I'm going to use together, a trick, folks, put your fabric right sides together before you cut it. And that way, when you're finished and you're ready to take it to your sewing machine, your pairs are already matched up. Little trick there. So we're just going to fold this over, back and forth. And we have a little bit left over. We're just going to tuck that down the side. So cutting pad on the top, cutting pad on the bottom. And we'll just let that feed in alongside. Get that out of the way. A couple of cranks of the handle will give us our 2.5 inch half square triangles. And we'll be ready to start sewing. So I'm not going to pull those apart right now. Occasionally you'll get a thread that'll stick. Don't pull on it too hard. Give it a little snip with your scissors. So don't overhandle those because you are working on a bias, but simply take them, place them in your sewing machine, and with a scant 1/4 inch, sew on that diagonal line. And you're going to sew the whole stack of these. When you're feeding your half square triangles into your sewing machine, it doesn't matter at this point whether you use the light on the top or the dark on the top. Just make sure you have one of each. Okay, this completes the 8 that we'll need for this block. Let's take this chain of half square triangles to the iron, give them a quick press. Now that we have our pressing done, we wanted to press the half square triangles, we want to press the seams open. And that will help alleviate some of the bulk when you go to lay them out later on. But press the seams open. It takes a little bit more time, but it's worth it in the long run. So now you can just cut those apart, and we're going to lay them out. Okay, so it is very important that you lay out your half square triangles exactly correct, because that forms your secondary pattern, which is the star, hence the name Hunter's Star. So we're going to sew these units together and then sew that. Let's start. And it doesn't matter which one you begin with. We're going to start with this one up top here. Bring it to your sewing machine. And again, using your same scant 1/4 inch, stitch those together. This pattern is available as a free download on the Sizzix.com website. Go in under Quilting, under Projects, and you will find the first quilt that I showed you in that colorway. Okay, let's give this a cut in the middle. Now before, I had you press the seams open. For this, you're going to press the seams to one side. So just nestle those two together. And I like to place a pin right in that intersection, just so that doesn't get away from me. All right, let's take these and sew them real quick, and we'll have our half square triangle units together. So when you open them up, they should lay right in the spot. Double check that your corner units match with your squares, and then you're going to give that a press. So this time when you press it, you will press this seam open. And you do have a connecting stitch right here. Just give that a snip. We don't iron, we press. So it's a pressing motion, not a this motion, or you'll end up with some stretching. I'm just going to finger press that here. Okay, so now that we've pressed them, we're going to lay them into place and double check that the layout is exactly correct. Now when I press these, I want to show you, I pressed the half square triangles, I pressed those seams open. When I adjoined those two units, I pressed that flat. And then when I sewed all 4 together, I pressed this open again. And what that's going to do is help the layout of this in the center. And you do that to all 4 of them. And it really ultimately lays all of the units flat in the center. And that will help with your machine quilting later on. So now that we're happy with our layout, we're going to take these 2 pieces and these 2 pieces and sew them together. So as always, we put our right sides together. Take that to your sewing machine. Make sure when you bring it to your sewing machine, you're not turning those blocks around. If you flip them over at this point, you'll end up with the seam in the wrong spot. So be very careful with that. And that'll form your block. Just give that a press. And when you press this one, you would do the same. So open up this cross seam and press this one towards the center, that larger block. All right, I hope you enjoyed the Hunter's Star block today. Again, if you need any more instructions on how to put that together, please feel free to visit Sizzix.com under Quilting Projects, and it will give the full list of yardage instructions and step-by-step as I've created the one block here. Happy quilting!